Everyone, this is the secondary video on how you would get data in ArcGIS Online. The first one was really how you kind of take something from scratch, right, that you've created in ArcGIS, in ArcMap, Arc Desktop, and optimize it through a feature service so that it can be hosted on our website and then used in online maps. But I'm just going to show you a couple of other ways if you just want to, create a map on the fly and get data from the web or from ESRI or from our site or even from your own computer, that there are other ways to do that. I'll keep reminding you though that if you're trying to bring a layer on for the first time to ArcGIS Online so that anyone can use it or so that you can use it in any map, you want to use the feature service method that I showed in the other video. All right, so here we are on our map, and if you want to actually bring anything into it, a totally new map, you can do it here through Add, and there's 5 primary categories. We'll really focus on 4 of them here, but mostly 3 with a little touch in another. The first is you can search for stuff that other people have already brought in. Right, so if you think about ArcGIS Online, or our ArcGIS Online, there's tons of layers that people have brought in. When you see your screen, you'll only see layers that either you brought in or that have been shared with you. But as more people begin to do this, we'll start to share more layers internally, and you'll be able to access other people's data. So that's one easy way to really go about it. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But again, this would require that someone has already published a feature service and that it's sitting online. So if you need to create a new map, which I don't, but I just want to make sure I show you, you can go to Create New Map. And so yeah, you come up, you search for a layer, and you can find something. I'll try to find what I did for the last video. I think it was called Video Examples. Example for video. I add it, and there we go. These were the the Memphis layers of the parcels that are owned by the institutions. So easy to get into a map, but again, you need to have had stuff already published in order to do that. So the next one is living atlas layers. This is actually pretty cool. There's tons of different things you can bring in that allow you to visually understand traffic or logistics, 3D networks, land cover, demography, and income. So this is good for visualization purposes. Now these are going to be at different extents, for example. Sometimes if you do historical maps, you might not be able to zoom all the way in like you would on something else. But something with like income, for example, or other things you could. So I'll go to income, and I'll just select one that's like U.S. unemployment. And then I can add it to a map, and I can zoom in and out, and it essentially just changes, whether I'm seeing it at a block group or a tract level or whatever, depending on how far out I go, which is kind of a neat function. And then so then I got my little legend, and I can really quickly look at my area and see the block groups and what the unemployment rates are. You have some ability here to play around with the symbology if you want, but that's for other videos, not the one that I'm showing here. And so those are living atlas layers. You can also add from a web. Not something we'll focus on right now, but if you have another server has data, or there's a KML file or CSV stored somewhere else, you can add it. And then probably the other one is another way to add shapefiles or features. Right? So the last video we started in Arc, and then we went to share as a service. And that's the preferred method for 2 main reasons. You can add data, like I'm going to do it right now, from file, and it either needs to be a zip shapefile, so you would need to go into Windows Explorer and zip the shapefiles component parts, a CSV file, and they'll map the addresses of latitude, longitude, which is a neat concept, or a GPX file. So it has to be one of those 3. So if I went in to find the thing that I prepared for today, I think it's in Memphis. And I come down, right, the MMDC's boundaries, I can import them, and there we go, right, it comes right in, lays there, up to me how I want to symbolize it. Perhaps I want it to be, Go up to the symbol, fill, no fill, and maybe have like a big red outline or something. There we go. So again, easy to bring in a layer, but there's two things that you should know. One, there's a size limitation. So if you do this method here, you can only bring in, I think it's like 1,000 records or something of a certain size. So if you're trying to import like a ton of parcels or a ton of addresses or something else, that's not going to work. You have to do the feature service. So that's number one. And the second is, unless you do something about it, this exists only in this map. So if I save this map, nobody else could go to search for layers and find MMDC boundaries. I'd have to come in here, and then I would have to actually save it as its own layer to be accessible by others on ArcGIS Online. So those are the two main deterrents, right? The big one is just the size that you can import is much smaller here, and the second is that it doesn't automatically create a web-based layer that we can use. The final one is map notes, and it's interesting because they're kind of like notes, but I could also call this like online shapefiles, like my polygon or something. And you could create it, and literally I could just draw kind of like a shape. There we go. There's my little shape, and I could close it, and I could go back, to my main map, and there it would be. These are my polygons, and then I could save that polygon as a layer and do what I want with it. So just another way if you need to kind of create a new shape on the fly instead of editing another shape. So those are the 5 main ways, right? You search for layers that someone's already imported with a feature service. You bring in kind of cool interactive web layers that are really good for visualization. You add something that's hosted elsewhere on a web. You can import shapefiles in another way that's different from a feature service but more limited. Or you kind of just add your own map notes, which I call drawing your own files.